Now all new at 10 from the ABC 15 investigators. A Valley widower recalls the last moments of his wife's life, dying of a heart attack as he was driving her to the emergency room.
The last thing she said to me was, "Are we there yet, honey? Are we there yet?" And I said, "We're almost there. 30 seconds, I'll be there."
So why didn't they take the ambulance? That's a question for the Phoenix firefighter-paramedics who had left the couple's house just minutes earlier. Here's ABC 15 investigator Melissa Blasius with an all-new special report, Ask for the Ambulance.
This is Francesca Sandberg, her joy, playing with her grandkids.
Nana! They called her Nana. She was the rock for our family. She was the glue.
But everything came unglued last New Year's Eve.
Fire department, what's the address of the emergency?
53-year-old Francesca, a retired school principal, was sick with COVID for weeks and took a turn for the worse that morning.
Shortness of breath from her heart pounding. She just said, "Please call an ambulance for me."
They're coming. They are coming.
But Francesca never got that ambulance. Instead, Phoenix Fire Engine 50 raced to their house.
I trusted these guys. I believed them. I trusted them. Big mistake.
Francesca was suffering from heart problems that would take her life, but the captain and firefighters who evaluated her concluded she was like any other COVID patient and did not need to go by ambulance. That's according to this internal fire department investigation, which also pointed out discrepancies in the firefighters' incident report and raised questions whether the firefighters performed the appropriate tests.
There was no EKG involved or anything.
Bruce said he realized if he wanted to get his wife to the hospital, he'd have to do it himself.
I was going to become proactive no matter what they said or did because they weren't moving, they weren't doing anything.
The firefighters told investigators they helped get Francesca to Bruce's truck. Bruce said it took nearly 10 minutes to drive to Honor Health Deer Valley Medical Center.
And the last thing she said to me was, "Are we there yet, honey? Are we there yet?"
By the time Bruce put his truck in park and grabbed a wheelchair,
Her eyes were glassed over, and I knew, and I went, "Oh my God, oh no," and I just went, primal. This is my wife, man, the love of my life.
Francesca Sandberg was pronounced dead 40 minutes later. A hospital worker familiar with the circumstances filed a complaint against the Phoenix Fire Department, and Bruce recently filed this legal claim against the city for wrongful death. But this is not an isolated case, nor a Phoenix-only problem. We talked to other patients and their families who say firefighter-paramedics talked them out of taking an ambulance to the emergency room, even when they felt they were in life or death situations.
Then they told me it probably was indeed just food poisoning, and there was nothing the hospital could do for me.
Dawn Gilpin, testifying at the state capitol in February, said after the paramedics left, her friend, Dr. Amish Shah, who's also a state legislator, drove her to the ER himself.
They removed about 2.5 feet of dead intestinal tissue from a bowel obstruction.
Shaw sponsored House Bill 2431, which bars paramedics from diagnosing patients and bans them from counseling a patient to decline EMS transportation.
Offering resistance to transport, that is just simply not acceptable.
State Firefighter Union President Brian Jeffries testified against the bill.
If we were to send them all to the emergency room, then our hospitals would just be completely overrun.
Jeffries tells me he often goes on 911 calls where someone doesn't actually need emergency care, and giving patients other medical options is in everyone's best interest. I asked Jeffries about allegations that some paramedics have improperly failed to transport.
Never. That never happens. If somebody wants to go to the hospital, we are obligated to take them to the hospital without question.
The Phoenix Fire Department rejected our repeated requests for an on-camera interview, but said in an email, "Our procedures dictate that we transport any customer to the hospital who requests transport via ambulance." You heard Bruce ask for the ambulance on that 911 call. He says he asked again after the firefighters got to his house, but in the report, the firefighters say they don't remember him asking. How many times do you have to ask for an ambulance to get an ambulance in Phoenix?
Should only have to ask once.
The fire department's internal investigation found Fire Captain Chris Stelzer and firefighter Jared Peterson in violation of patient care and consent policies, in part because the fire crew did not get the Sandbergs to sign a form that's required, saying that the patient refuses an ambulance. As for whether the fire crew denied an ambulance, the investigator said he was unable to establish enough evidence of a denial.
The whole point is why I'm sitting here today is because other people may become victim to this same thing.
6 months after Francesca's heart attack, Bruce asks, would she be alive today if she had received medical care in the back of a lights and siren ambulance during that ride to the hospital?
It was heartbreaking that there could have been a chance that she could have survived.
Instead, Francesca's 13 grandkids can only see their Nana's smile in these videos. The Phoenix Fire Department refused to say whether anybody on that fire crew was disciplined for what happened with Francesca. But just hours before this report was first scheduled to air, the department did provide us with this. It is a draft explaining how they intend to comply with House Bill 2431. That's Dr. Shaw's bill that was signed into law last month. There is a heavy focus here on responsibilities for firefighter-paramedics on not giving a medical opinion or diagnosis, explaining to patients the risks of refusing an ambulance, and getting additional medical direction from a doctor in what's deemed a high-risk refusal. I'm investigator Melissa Blasius, ABC 15, Arizona.